Oh yes, legends, how's everybody doing? Let's analyze the situation for the price of Bitcoin. Let's go. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic, guys. Let's see what's going on here, because my goodness, what a major dump. It decided it wanted to dump already. It decided it wanted to start dumping here with increasing volume on the lower time frame. We're going to analyze the situation here, because is history repeating, right? As mentioned on the thumbnail, where we do have eventually the 2022 price action bear market from 4 years ago. We were discussing throughout the last few days, do we get that wick? Do we claim 91K? You know, we're looking either for a triangle, an ABC flat. It seems like it's inevitable at this point that we do see $80,000, minus $80,000 at some point, right? So it does look very, very similar. We were discussing that last little movement before starting that major dump to the downside. Is there hope, at least for an internal bounce for the price of Bitcoin before hitting $80,000? That's what we are going to discuss in today's live stream, guys. Make sure to smash up the like button if you do enjoy the stream. First of all, let's talk about the disclaimer, of course. This content is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. The information provided is not guaranteed to be accurate or complete. Always conduct your own research before making any financial decision. Let's discuss this dump, of course, mainly on the lower time frames, where we do have increasing volume throughout this dump, and it looks very much like it could be developing that third wave to the downside here, more internally from this local move. We need to discuss the price action. A few scenarios that were mentioned on yesterday's stream. Multiple 1-2s. We needed to maintain above 88.7K. The moment you lose that level, then obviously you lose the chance in creating that third wave, and then the 4-5s, right, that we were, looking for here, potentially for that ABC flat. It was super important. As you can see on the chart, we lost 88.7. That was the crucial point to maintain bullish market structure, to have a chance to form that flat scenario. Now, other scenarios that we were talking about was a potential triangle formation here to form a higher low and then take the dump to the downside. However, the price action today just continued rolling over. And I need to give a shout out to Joan in the community, because he pointed out this leading diagonal eventually, which, I was taking a look at. And if you have a an ending diagonal, because it's a wave C, not a leading one, okay? Ending diagonal finishes in a wave 5 or in a wave C to complete that ABC flat, all right? Running flat in this case, because a regular flat does take out the top of the A wave. And leading diagonal, of course, you do have a 5-wave move. Sorry, ending diagonal. We're so used to counting leading diagonals. Ending diagonals are more common than a leading diagonal for a wave 5 or a wave C. Of course, running flats are not that common. However, in a very bearish environment or in a very bullish environment, running flats are, quite common, and we could actually feel that bearish sentiment. We were looking at the high probability of coming down to $80,000 at some point in the next, I was saying, about a week or so. We're still at 84. I think we could take a few more days till we actually get down. There is a bullish scenario. There's always a bullish scenario, but eventually, looking at the bearish momentum, all of the different, S&P 500, gold, they all have taken a pretty nasty dip today. And obviously Bitcoin, following through eventually with the big boys, which is gold and the S&P 500. There was high probability in breaking down on the higher time frame, right? We like to discuss the lower time frame to see if we're forming a triangle. Could we form that, that regular flat to get above 91K? But all of this, most of the scenarios that we are discussing are all corrective, right? They're all looking for either, do we form a triangle, then move down? Do we form a regular flat and then move down? And Price decided, with the information that we have, that a running flat with an ending diagonal looks like it has been the name of the game here. at the moment with this movement down, with increasing volume, with a few 1-2s and a third wave breakdown here. Potentially we start getting that exhaustion in this range, and we need to understand the levels, okay, for the bulls and the levels for the bears eventually, to get this continuation to the downside. Today I decided to add a little bit to that swing short position, just because I was very much aware that we either looking for the triangle, an impulsive move down, a bounce, and then move down here. You know, most of the scenarios, there was a bullish scenario eventually, which was a leading diagonal in a wave 1 or wave A, correction, a higher low, and then move to the upside, even though leading diagonal has the lowest probability always if you can count something else. In this case, it was an ending diagonal in a wave C for that running flat, and the bullish scenarios were just not looking extremely great, and it was all just part of continuing the range and then roll over later on, or start rolling over very, very aggressively here between today and tomorrow, which has been the case, right? So overall, moving down here quite aggressively, and we need to discuss what is most important right now, which is the local move to the downside, to try and understand, do we get more power from here? You know, what do we need to see to understand the exhaustion from the bears, at least in the short term, for potentially a bounce to form another lower high and continue to the downside? We'll be discussing all of that, legends. Okay, much love to everybody. Let's go through the comment section here right away and say hello to the beautiful community. Okay, much love to everyone. We've got over 300 people watching the stream right now. Make sure to destroy that like button. Let's go, let's go. Let's do a like recount and see if we are above the 100 already. That would be absolutely awesome. 50 likes, we can do better than that, legends. Let's go, let's go. Holy, holy, holy BTS. Yes, Bitcoin decided today, but also with the rest of assets. You know, gold got a pretty aggressive move to the downside here. Pretty damn aggressive move down for gold, which is over a $22 trillion you know, asset, right? A commodity. So yeah, I mean, 7% dump in the day, which is over a 7% dump for gold, which is obviously a very, very big market. The ES also getting that major drop of about 1.5%, if I'm not mistaken, or so, which is obviously for the S&P 500, over a 1% move is significant, especially if you do create it in a few hours. And obviously, Bitcoin got punished with that move, with the drop from the big boys, as we can see on Bitcoin eventually. Okay, naturally it is going to get that effect to the downside. So we're going to discuss the scenarios. Much love to everybody. Let's go, brother. Last 5 minutes are killing me. Yeah, sorry about that. Today was a little bit of a later live stream as well, but it's okay. We're going to be here for a couple of hours at least discussing the scenarios. Blood on the streets. You're damn right. You're damn right. Hi Andy, I have a short from 90k. Do you think I should take partial or hold it as a swing short? It's always good to take some. It's looking good. I can explain. I was in a long position that I had to take significant profits, as explained in the community, with that loss of 88.7. This was so crucial, guys, and you can actually see on the chart. On yesterday's stream, we were pointing out this level, right? As in, we lose this, it's a sign of weakness. We either, you know, have the triangle, right? We have a B, C, D, E running triangle, and then we move down. We either have an impulsive move on the formation here, we get the bounce, and then we roll over. You know, most of the scenarios, obviously taking into consideration the bullish one, which was a leading diagonal to get a correction and then move up. Low probability eventually, but we always consider the bullish scenarios as well, even though they have low probability. And I will explain, if you know, somebody saying here in the comment section, of course, no financial advice, just my personal opinion. Somebody saying that's in a short position from 90k. Do I hold that short as a swing potentially to hit $80,000? And I can tell you already, you're in a very good position. You're in a very, very good position at this moment. Anybody that is short from higher, from 90K or 89K, even above 89K basically, is in a very, very good position at this moment, because it's looking weak. It's looking weak. This does look very, very aggressive. There will be a pivot that will be explained today that if it is hit, the bulls have a chance to take out the highs, okay? At least this one right over here. So that pivot is not too far away, okay? It's around about the $87,000. That is if we do manage to form a low in the next coming hours, okay? Only next coming hours. If we bounce and form another low, then eventually it's looking very, very bearish, okay? So the bounce is likely going to be corrective, but the bulls, at least short-term bulls, okay, not the bulls to go up to all-time high, the bulls to get a bounce, a bigger bounce to get above $90,000, they would only have a chance if we were to bounce from the current levels, okay, maybe some internal lows on the lower time frame, that is fine. But if we were to bounce, right, currently from this zone, and we do hit the golden pocket from the last lower high, okay, this one right over here, which is round about 86.7K, if this is going to be the low, if the bounce does manage to reach the golden pocket at 86.7K, sorry, we have a chance for that flat scenario that we mentioned, okay? Either running flat here or either an expanding flat, okay? But we would have to rally from current levels all the way up to 86.7. I know you might think, well, I'm going to miss out on a $2,000 right move based on profits, but this is how trading works. You know, I had a long position from $86,000, and I was letting the community know, especially this morning, about that long position that we did take last Sunday from 86K. You know, I want to try and maximize profit. It doesn't really matter if you take profits here or if you take profits here, right? It doesn't really matter. You know, there's a little, you know, obviously you are missing out a little bit, but that's when you realize the weakness. And that's, you know, we do have a level to realize where is the weakness for the bears, right? How does the price action need to evolve? So I realize, holy smokes, you know, if I'm short from here, I at least want to collect, you know, significant profits, right? Just the same as the long position that was taken here on 86K, you know, letting the trading community very much aware, guys. If we lose 88.7K, we just need to realize that this could be a WXY, a three-wave structure, and there's no multiple 1-2s on the formation, okay? So that's the thing. Yeah, I'm missing out in taking profits at the exact Pico top. But that's very, very complicated in trading, right? You know, it's very, very difficult. It does happen once in a while where you short the high and you collect profits at the exact low, and you long the exact low and you take profits at the exact high, and you take a short here and you take profit at the exact low if you're going to get a bounce, right? It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I wish it would, but it doesn't work like that, right? So you need to realize the sign of weakness, right? And, you know, as we lost this level, it's time to collect most of the profits from this long position, okay? So we got something similar here that can be explained. So you're in a short from the 90K region. You know, you know, there is a chance of this being a strong impulse on the development, okay, not finished, but developing. And if that is going to be the case, then it's, you know, if we do get a couple of more lows here, it's going to be very, very good. This will very, very much look like an impulse. And what we would expect, of course, in the next coming days would be some kind of a corrective structure just to continue the down to $80,000. Okay, so you're in a very, very good position at the moment, and there's no big signs. Okay, We'll explain that in today's live stream. Smash up the like button if you do enjoy the content. Sorry, I just wanted to focus on that question. Very good question. You know, I'm in a short from 90K. Do you think I should hold or you know, take some profits here? You're in a very good position. You know, overall, the market is looking quite bearish eventually. And on the higher time frame, you know, when we discuss the higher time frame, it's kind of a no-brainer. As we mentioned in the last week, this has the potential of being the high for many months. Maybe for a few months, this probably is going to be the high, purely based on this being very, very corrective, right? Three-wave structure and having an impulse down, right? The overall discussion was, you know, how do we bounce from here? Is it a flat? Is it a triangle? Has the flat already formed with that price action that we had yesterday on that ending diagonal in a wave C? You know, it's been a little bit too bearish. You know, sentiment, the weakness, everything's skyrocketing. You know, and it's just about you know, a matter of time that you do get those deep pullbacks on gold, on the S&P 500, which was just recently at all-time high yesterday. And we know the S&P 500 lately, for the last few months, every time you hit all-time high, it cannot get a major breakout. It seems like the big money is just so aware they are taking profits every time we hit all-time high, and this is very, very concerning eventually, because I mean, look at this. You know, every time we hit all-time high on the S&P 500, you know, we do get those significant, you know, corrections, at least here locally, right? So it's kind of getting exhausted, and when you have these at all-time high and they're going to get these dips, inevitably Bitcoin is going to get affected by it, right? It's, you know, these 1%, 2% moves on the S&P 500, there is correlation still now and up to date, inevitably. Bitcoin is just a very, very small asset against this one, which is, you know, 70 trillion or you know, and obviously gold is over 22 trillion. I'm not sure now quite, might be 23 or so. And Bitcoin's under 2 trillion, right? So it's a very, very small compared to the big boys. And inevitably, if these get a hit of a few percentage, then Bitcoin is going to take that hit as well. Okay, so and you understand when you're at all-time high, it's at a red alert zone, right? Red alert zone. You know, when you understand the S&P 500, every time it's hitting all-time high throughout the last few months, it is just pulling back. It ain't getting a major breakout, right? So it's something that you always want to take into consideration with the correlation that there is. Blood on the streets. Yes, there is. I told you, Andy, you should have shorted with me yesterday. Dump, baby, dump. In a short position as well. Decided to add to that position. It's all about understanding the probabilities, right? You can be very, very smart and show your Pico top short position. I understood that based on what could have been formed throughout, you know, the next coming days, the loss of 88.7K was the sweet spot. And that is not a bad zone if you have shorts from higher to add to the position, okay? Understanding the weakness, because the highest probability here is either this is the ending diagonal in an ABC running flat, you either form the triangle, you know, the bullish scenarios in a leading diagonal here to then get a movement to the upside is the lowest probability scenario. So you understand now it's in favor. I didn't get into any new positions. I just added to the current position because I was wanting to get a impulsive move down in this region, then the bounce, and then the move down. But market was ferocious in the last few hours, and it decided to take that dump to the downside. Okay, so naturally adding to some shorts, if you had existing shorts from higher of the previous week, made sense. It did make sense to do this. So it's a smart move when we talk about losing 88.7K yesterday was the crucial level, and we can actually see the confirmation today, right? We lost the level, you know, we came down below $86,000. So you realize how the power of understanding the structure and what could be the next move for the highest probability is, you know, is very much what you need to learn, right? What's highly likely, what's not highly likely. And losing that 88.7K was the clear pivot, okay, to understand that what you could form later on is either a triangle or either an impulse down, correction, and then down, okay? So let's go through the comment section. My man Ramsey, much love. All-time high is coming. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, right? At some point in the next coming months, maybe next year. My longs, yeah, I want to be extremely cautious. Bathmadi, yeah, with any longs. My shorts. Thomas, much love. Andy, my man. Big Don 25, much love to you, my man. Longs getting crushed, they are. Andy sold some spot and dumped the market. I haven't sold some spots. No, I haven't. I'm holding the bags to the downside. But this is a long-term thing. Spot bags for me is like looking for, you know, 5-10 years down the road. Okay. But overall, I'd be interested in start DCAing into Bitcoin below $80,000. I'm going to start DCAing, you know, 5% of my cash below 80K, maybe 75K. If we get below 70K, you know, start putting another 5-10% of cash that, you know, if you do have some savings and cash, you know, it is smart to start DCAing, okay? Especially if you don't have any Bitcoin. But as mentioned, I'm not buying any Bitcoin until we start breaking down below 80K. That's when I'm going to start DCAing. I think that's already a decent smart move, because Bitcoin to all-time high in the future, I have no doubt that is going to happen. Okay. I have no doubt that's going to happen. So when you are investing, right, as well, you just consider that from all-time high, if we drop below $80,000, you know, we're already looking for a 40% discount, right? And that is extremely good already for me. It's very, very attractive because, you know, I do believe that you have a very, very good chance to double your investment, right, in the next, give or take, 1 to 2 years, right? Staying realistic. With the scenario, and then obviously making 100% right on an investment in a couple of years is attractive enough to invest in. So okay, interesting comments I can see here. We are overall bearish on Bitcoin. There's liquidity at $84,000. Yeah, still some liquidity to the downside. We have built up some liquidity to the upside, but there's still some liquidity down there around the 84, still a few 100 million long liquidations. So, and we're moving down very impulsively. We're going to discuss the different scenarios here. Okay, so bear with me. We will be discussing the different scenarios. And if we were to bounce to 86.7K from this moment, we have a chance that we're going to range a little bit more, right? 80K will be postponed till next week, maybe, or maybe 2 weeks. That is if we manage to rally from this zone all the way up to 86.5K, which is the golden pocket, which means that you would invalidate a wave 4 if you're considering here multiple 1-2s and the biggest move with the highest amount of volume, okay, takes out on the bounce 86.7, then we need to start considering that this is a 3-wave structure. If you have a 3-wave structure to the downside here, then we have some interesting scenarios. I'm not a massive fan of this scenario, I have to say. This ending diagonal can be counted as a double zigzag as well. There is a way of counting a double zigzag. We were talking about it yesterday. And there is a way of counting this as a 3-wave structure double zigzag, which that's the beauty of you know, the different scenarios that could happen, right? That is considering not my favorite scenario, which is that at that point we need to consider, even though I don't like it, I don't think it's going to happen based on the low probabilities, but we know that low probability scenarios do happen sometimes, right? Low probability doesn't mean impossible. It just means it doesn't happen so common, right? A running flat is not very common. Okay, it's not very common. If this is the end of the fifth wave and that's your ABC, and you know, finishing in an ending diagonals are relatively, you know, you do see them once in a while. They are common enough, but a running flat is not that common, right? When you compare them to the rest of the flats, which would be an expanding flat or a regular flat that takes out the high of the A wave. However, when the environment is very bearish, right, and or very, very bullish, it is common, right? And we understand based on the higher time frame that, oh man, it's just looking, it's looking very bearish, right? You're looking for that capitulation to happen at some point in the coming days, maybe a week. Do we form a triangle? Do we form a running flat? You know, this is very, very corrective. This is very impulsive. Running flat based on the structure that we have. A bear flag, if you wish, guys, just for the simple average Joes out there. You know, it's just breaking down. It's looking weak. And, you know, a running flat is very much a possibility when we consider the amount of bearishness that we have. So, let's talk about the bullish case scenario, right? Which is looking not very real. Then we go through the bearish setups, of course, because it does look weak, okay? But let's start off with the lower probability scenario. Why not? Okay, there's we got some time. There's no major quick. We're forming a little bit of an SFP from this low. Anybody that wants to get into wanted to get into a quick local scalp, right? We got a few higher lows on the higher time frame here, which is forming a little SFP for the aggressive traders here, just bouncing, you know, $500-600. You know, we know that these major higher time frame higher lows could be a major pivot for a reaction, and that's what's happening at the moment, right? We're hitting that higher low from the 18th of December at 84.4k, and it is getting a small little reaction bounce. What can we say? So let's go with the higher time frame legends. Much love to everybody. I'll go through the comment section later on. Krypton boy, how are you doing? I'm long again in 28k only. Much love. Bullish case can hit. Clarity Act is passed. My entry was 89.8 and got wicked out. Trump is live being bullish. Not sure if that's going to affect, right? Maybe it does. I mean, I think gold is getting a little bit of a quick bounce at the moment, and the stock market is also, right, getting a little bit of a bounce after this major dump. The S&P 500 is still overall bullish, right? When you take a look at the 5-minute time frame, it is a significant move, but when you zoom out, right, on the 1 hour, 4 hour, this is like, you know, just the average day move down, right, before we hit all-time high in the next, you know, couple of weeks, right? So I'll go through the comment section. Big BTC shop in October of this year. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation that the price of Bitcoin will bottom out, right, in Q4 of this year. If we do consider the 4-year cycle theory and the similarities that there is from and we'll go through the setups later on, okay? Don't worry. We go through a lot of education and a little bit of a higher time frame. We'll go through the day trading setups in a bit, guys. There's not really that much to do right now, but we can map out the situation that could happen in the coming hours. We just move down with a big amount of volume, and there's ways to detect the different movements, which we're going to talk about now in the next coming minutes. But going through this, right? History repeating itself. This is the price action of 2022, and And when we bottomed out of that question, someone said Bitcoin shopping in October, right? We bottomed out in November, right? So the bear market in the previous cycles has been round about 1 year, right? This peaked out in November of 2021 and it bottomed out in November of 2022. And I get that Bitcoin shopping in October of 2026 of this year. Basically, we peaked out in October. It's about a year of a bear market, right? So in October is going to be the time to start scooping up some Bitcoin by that comment. Yeah, we are literally, you know, almost repeating for the moment even the percentage. This was the high, guys, of 2021 in November. So even the length of the move and this bounce is just like almost the same, right? It's not exactly the same, but very, very similar. So yeah, do we bottom out here later on in throughout Q3, Q4 of this year? Well, it's a big speculation, of course, but let's go right away through the scenarios here on Bitcoin. Okay, let's dive in. Because on the 4-hourly time frame, when we do take a look at this price action, for the moment, what I am favoring is that we have finished a wave 1 here to the downside, and this has been a running flat based on the pressure that we got here with this movement down with high volume. So corrective move finished, first wave 1 finished. Wave 2 discussing, do we hit 91, 92? Do we form a triangle? We are looking for the price to roll over at some point based on the information that we have, right? Bitcoin's looking weak, and the bounces, we're looking for the bounces eventually to form a lower high and then just end up breaking down, regardless if it's going to be a week or a few days. So with that said, we need to consider the local price action, right? Wave 1, which fits better here, running flat with that ending diagonal in the wave C. And now you have your next wave 1. If not, we do get increasing volume and the breakdown and hit minus $80,000, between today and tomorrow, right? It just capitulates down, doesn't manage to find support, and it just ends up rolling. So I'm going to explain a little bit in detail what would be interesting here. And it's super important that we do claim the low. I'm going to say twice, okay? 2 times with shallow bounces, okay? Shallow bounces to the 382, 236, or to the 50% Fibonacci max, right? And claim the lows here a couple of times between today and tomorrow. That would be the ideal scenario to realize that, this is a pretty damn solid impulsive move down. And then naturally the bounce is going to be very interesting just to either add to short positions or look for new short positions, because the overall target is looking to tackle $80,000, right? At the end of the day on the higher time frame, right? So zooming in ever so slightly to the 1-hour chart, what we can see here from the highs that we created yesterday at 90.5K almost, we have potentially a wave 1, wave 2, another wave 1, and another wave 2 here. At least 2 1-2s, okay? I was discussing here that it would look good for a wave 3, right? Create a couple of more lows, get the bounce, and then obviously look for the rollover. However, we need to obviously acknowledge that the movement down was already creating those multiple 1-2s to the downside, and now we've got the high volume move to the downside with increasing volume. So this is why if we do have at least 2 1-2s in this zone, and the increasing volume started today with this little range, you could arguably discuss this could be a sideways correction, or you've got a little mini 1-2 here which means that you need another 4, 5, and then a 4 and a 5, right, at a bare minimum. So it would be nice to create a little bit of a range here with a few more lows to actually have a completed impulse. That would be the ideal picture here, all right, to get that bounce later on in a corrective move, right? That would be your next opportunity to either add to existing shorts. This is why somebody in the comment section said, you know, I'm in a short from 90K. Do I take profits, right? Or do I wait for a swing short? It's always nice to collect a little bit of profits. Well, why not, right? 10%, 20%. But you're in I have to say, you're in a very, very good position at this point. And there is only one level that I would consider taking significant profits. And that is hitting 86.7K. The main reason, if we were to get that bounce all the way up to 86.7K, which is only 1,500 bounce, price is looking weak, big volume down, so the bears are leading the way. There's no doubt about it. If you do hit that level, based on what we explained here, you know, what you want to see is 1, 2, 1, 2, and then with the third wave breakdown, you want to see the 236 Fibonacci, which is currently where it's struggling, which is, you know, this is the common zone for a wave 4. Okay, common area between the 236 to the 50% Fibonacci. Now, that's where you want to see the price roll back down and claim the low, right? And then you know at this point that this is starting to look more like an impulse, because you're starting with your wave 4 and 5. The biggest move here has happened with the highest amount of volume. Now is where you want to see that exhaustion here in this zone, as you claim the lows with decreasing volume, right? You get those spikes in volume that are lower from this movement, and you start forming these double, triple bottoms, right, throughout today and tomorrow, right, to then get that bigger relief rally, okay, in the next coming days. It would be nice for it to be like in the weekend, and then obviously say, you know, analyze that situation, saying, you know, there's just a high probability that we form a lower high here. So it's, you know, the price action is bearish. It's bearish. It looks like that we could have an impulse. The impulse needs to finish, obviously, with 4 and 5s. You don't have an impulse finishing with a big candle in high volume. It needs to finish the grinding structure to the downside, testing the lows a couple of times. That's when you know that you have a possible impulse coming to its end stages. So that's what you wanted to see in the next 1 to 2 days between today and tomorrow. And then the bounce is going to be very, very interesting, because when we analyze the higher time frame, we are discussing in this case that this is a wave 1 and this is a wave 2, and you're running flat. This would be another wave 1 and another wave 2 getting developed in this case. That's if we do form a couple of more lows and then get the bounce. Naturally, your second 1, 2, you know, it is better to have it smaller than your previous one. And this is just going to be very, very bearish for the next couple of weeks. That is when we realize that, you know, not only hitting $80,000, but we're probably going down to 75 and even lower than that. Because if we are building multiple 1, 2s from here, you know, we're going to have a few days that it's just going to be like capitulation, right? Remember the day here that we had back in the 10th of October of 2025, right? And even this movement down here that we had mid-November, which was just day after day, rolling and rolling and rolling. I think we are very much coming into that stage in the next coming weeks by the looks of things, right? Especially when we do take a look at history repeating, right? It just seems like that the 1, 2, 1, 2, smaller 1, 2s, right? Let me just get the drawing out of the way, because you can actually see something very, very similar that happened here in 2022, which you're literally having your bigger wave 1 and then your smaller wave 1s and 2s here, as you can see, right? So you got the bigger move, bounce, that did hit the 382 Fibonacci, almost 50%. Then you got the next one, right? Finishing here, a little bit of a range, and then the third wave, right? And then fourth and fifth wave, you know, even bigger. So, you know, it's just, this is something that looks very, very likely till we are proven otherwise, right? How are we proven otherwise? Well, we need a bounce now to get to 86.7. That would be a good sign for the local bullish scenario that has a chance to get above $91,000. So let's discuss that, because I think it's very, very important here to understand that scenario. And that would bring the other scenario. So as explained, it's looking bearish. We have a possibility of a wave 1, possibility of a running flat in a wave 2, another possible wave 1, which we need a couple of 4-5s at least, because we do have at least a couple of 1-2s. So you want to see that impulse finishing, then the bounce entering into the 50%. I would already be pretty aggressive to consider existing shorts, or, you know, even adding to the short, because the idea of the short from here is add. You got a sign of weakness, impulse, very choppy bounce. We add again to the position, right? Until you actually understand that we're just down trending and the bounces are corrective and the movements down are impulsive, and you just maximize as much as you can throughout the next coming weeks and months even, right? However, if we bounce now to 86.7 very aggressively in the next few hours, I'm going to have to take some profits. So, and it's time to cut the wins here. Not cut the losses because it's in a profit eventually, but cut the wins, because you realize that you might have a local bullish case scenario, which is what we're going to explain. Anyway, this scenario would be absolutely awesome because you're finishing an impulse, a couple of 4-5s, you're getting the bounce, and this bounce, literally, I would be looking for a basic support resistance flip, right? That would be the ideal scenario here. Not only that, you would be coming all the way up to back test the value area low of this entire trading zone, right? Which is coming in at 86.7K. That's only if we form a few 4-5s here and then get the bounce, right, by tomorrow. Then I would say that's it, guys. We're just back testing the value area low and we look for the rollover. But you need those 4-5s, because if we bounce from here to 86.7K, we have a chance of this being a 3-wave down, right? A little bit of a local bear trap situation where everybody's thinking that we're getting down to 80K in the next coming days. It's going to capitulate, and then we hit 86.7K now in the next coming hours, and the game is going to change, at least in the short term, for the bulls here. So let's break down that scenario right away with you legends, and you know, let's discuss that. Right, I'm having some issues here with the drawings. It's not, they're not deleting with the keyboard. So right. I like to freestyle here. I got some stuff in some folders, but I really like to freestyle. Live stream needs to be freestyle. Okay. I have it organized, and I have it a few folders here that I want to discuss, but I like to use the drawing tool, guys. Boom, boom, bang, bing, bang, bang, right? It just, it feels good on a live stream just to do a little bit of freestyle. And I think you guys enjoy it as well, because you just realize, you know, how are we looking at the things, right? So anyway, okay. The bullish case scenario, which is, we always have to have a bullish case scenario locally anyway. We always have to have one, right? That is treating this movement to the downside, which I absolutely hate, to consider it a 5-wave impulse. You can squeeze one in here You can, but it looks extremely ugly. When you do take the exact pivots here on the 1 hour, you know, you have a 5-wave move down, but your wave 3 is smaller. If you go to the 5-minute, 3-minute time frame, you can squeeze in a 5-wave impulse down that looks very, very ugly. If you can fit it in, you need to consider it. Now, you can fit in, this is what happens with diagonals. You can fit a WXY. You know, there is a zigzag move to the upside, correction, and a little zigzag here that we formed yesterday. There is a way of counting a double zigzag in this zone. Zigzag up, correction, zigzag up. If you have a zigzag move, double zigzag to the upside, you can have an A wave if you are going to form a flat, right? If you can form a flat. Now, a 3-wave for an A wave can only be inside of a flat. If it's a zigzag, A wave is always an impulse. It's a 5-wave structure. It can be a diagonal, of course, as well, leading diagonal. So if we were to see this as a 3-wave move to the upside, if we hit on this bounce, which is not looking too attractive, if anybody wants to be aggressive and short the potential 4 and 5s just to test the lows, the risk to reward is never that great. You know, your rejection zone for the 4/5s is in between the 236 and the 50% Fibonacci, and your invalidation in this case would be 86.7k. So anybody that wants to, you know, take any shorts from here, you know, above the 0.236 fib to the 50% Fibonacci, I mean, the risk to reward is not that great, I have to say. But, you know, you would be speculating on wave 4s to take out the low here. That's your target, really. The biggest move has already happened. And as the biggest move has already happened, you know, you realize that you could only test the lows here before getting a bigger bounce later on. So it's not too attractive, but anybody that wants to attempt it, you know, it's literally this zone needs to reject. Your hard invalidation is the golden pocket. Risk to reward is not that great, as you can see, but so going back to this potential 3-wave up and an A wave. If we hit in this bounce, if we do hit it without claiming the lows later in the next coming hours, right? Say, you know, what we want to see here for the bearish case scenario is this, right? And then naturally, maybe another low. You know, then you know that, okay, this is looking like an impulse, right? You got your 1-2s, you got your 3rd, and then your 4-5s. You know, look no further. It will be looking quite impulsive. But if you have this highest amount of volume on the movement down, you can always consider a 3-wave move down if you get above the golden pocket, because then you understand that the wave 4 for the impulse has been invalidated. So that would mean that this has the potential of forming a flat. Now, of course, it's looking bearish. Running flats can happen, because if this is the correct count for the running flat, then, you know, you could, if this is the wave 5, you know, you could still form a running flat here and then roll over later on in the next coming days. But it does have the potential. You just have to look at the waves here, because you could form an ending diagonal. It could be just a regular impulse and then roll over. But you need to hit that 86.7k, right? So what is interesting about this is when we take a look at the Fibonacci extension tool from the start of this speculative A wave to the top of the A wave, right? And we reverse that extension, we are hitting the 1236 to the 1382. And that is a common B wave target, okay, in a flat. That's where we are stopping currently. So, you know, I think the market makers are deciding, do we form a flat here and get everybody surprised, or do we have the impulse finished here? That's the running flat. That's your wave one. We take out the lows and we just continue the downtrend, right, in the next coming days. So that's something interesting that we have here, right? We are hitting the common target zone for a B wave in a flat, right? And naturally, it's getting a reaction at the 1382. It's getting a small little reaction at that higher low that we have right over here. Do the local bulls have a chance? I mean, they have a chance. They have a chance, but you would have to hit at least the 86.7K here without taking out the lows again in the next coming hours. Okay, so not looking great, right? Not looking great. But is there a potential for a running flat or an expanding flat? That there is a possibility, only to get continuation to the downside later on, right? It's just looking at the local possible scenarios in the coming days. We overall, the directional bias on the higher time frame is looking to tackle $80,000 at some point, right? It's just we're just discussing here the possible internal bounces, corrections that could happen, but I think it's a matter of time that we do get down to $80,000. Will it be tonight because this is a wave 3 and it's going to capitulate? Or will we finish with 4.5s and get the bounce throughout tomorrow and form a lower high, right? Potentially at the value area low or even at the point of control. It's very, very common to get that resistance when you get out of the value area low and point of control. Do you form that impulse? Then you reject from here. You need a few more 4.5s locally. Do you form the flat? Do you form the flat? You just create a liquidity grab, little short squeeze, and then go down. All of the scenarios are pointing out down. So on the higher time frame, it's just locally that we are trying to figure out the different possibilities, right? Before going lower. But the directional bias is down, really. Also with the bars pattern here that we been discussing throughout the last few days, right, from the price action of Q1 of 2022. So it's important that we hit this pivot for the potential ABC flat, basically. Right, and this has to be without taking out the local lows, right? So that would be like the level that is important right now to give the bulls a chance to even take out 90,500, because that would be either a regular flat or the potential of an expanding flat. The price looks so weak that it doesn't look like it wants to do this, especially if we do claim the lows here in the next coming hours between today and tomorrow. Then we'll have a pretty, then I would say this is unlikely to be that B wave of the flat, okay? Because a B wave needs to be some kind of a 3-waver. If you get the bigger move to the downside, which happened today, right, just lately in the last few hours, you want that bounce to succeed here in the next coming hours, right? Without taking out the low, preferably. You can take it out one more time here, very locally, that's okay. But you don't want to form the bounce in a few hours, then take out the low, another bounce, and it just looks weak. Then you realize that this is likely an impulse down. And if you have very likely an impulse to the downside with the 4.5s, then you're not looking at this, right, to be a corrective structure. So a B wave for this flat would go out the window, literally. So anyways, it's fun to discuss the potential of the local bullish bounce, but it's not looking great. The price needs to hit 86.7K without taking out the lows a few times in the next coming hours to consider that the bulls have a chance here to form that flat here in the coming days, which would naturally only give you a much better short position, right? Again, to then look for the rollover to $80,000, right? So will we get the chance to short from higher in the coming days? It's all about the 86.7K level at this point without testing the lows in the coming hours. If not, we test the lows a few times in the coming hours. That's okay. And then we naturally just look for, unless you capitulate, right? Because this is the interesting thing about, I understand that the price action will get exhausted when the price shows me it's getting exhausted here with decreasing volume, right, into this zone. And then naturally that's when I can fit in an impulse to the downside. And then any local bounce here coming into levels of resistance is just going to be the moment to take the short again, right? It doesn't matter if you shorted in the last 2 weeks here, right? You can short here. We can short later on here on the bounces. It's just trying to identify the story that the market is telling us, right? Anybody that shorted throughout the last couple of weeks on these bounces that we've had, then it's, you know, it's okay, right? So and this is also when, you know, when we consider the loss that we had on Bitcoin here, this was actually quite interesting when we got back inside of the value area of this entire trading zone, right? Without counting the local price action, right? Price action got back inside here with a major move to the downside, inside of the value area of this entire trading zone since November, right? It literally back tested the level and continued to the downside. So naturally, if we do consider this being the wave one, and this has been the running flat, we end up forming a few more lows here to just finish an impulse. Man, that bounce already to $86,000 to $87,000 is going to be a zone of rejection. You know, you might wick back above the value area low here, but you need to understand that this could be a 1-2, and that's another 1 and 2. And it's just a matter of time that we end up breaking down in that third wave that to capitulate, right? So I do believe that is coming. It's going to come at some stage. When we do take a look at the chart, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time here, regardless if we get one more wave 1 and 2. You know, that's when we understand also the price action that we had back in 2022, right? When we do fit in the bars pattern from the bear market of 2022, right? It's a, you know, you understand that this movement is corrective. It's a matter of time that we take out the low and break down, or you know, successfully or not, it doesn't matter. It's getting down to the lows first of all, and then, you know, we'll decide with the information how low we can go. But you can see, you know, this did take another few more days, right? Do we get a little bit more of a range and a little bit of more lower highs? All right, another 1-2 and another 1-2, right? It's like, it's kind of a matter of time. You know, if it happens today with this breakdown, it just continues capitulating, or it gets a little bit of exhaustion on the lower time frame, testing the lows, and then the bounce is going to be like these little bounces. You know, do you think it matters when in a few weeks, you know, price action is down here? Do you think it matters shorting here or shorting here or shorting here? You know, you're going to be happy regardless, right? So you know, there's still time, there's still opportunities. So now is really detecting that higher probability scenario. Eventually, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, but we can have some ideas, and we can understand how the price could move, and that's when we take action based on these swing trades, right? So on the lower time frame, look no further. We need to create a few more lows to actually complete this movement as an impulse, right? Complete it as an impulse, because you got your 1-2s, you got your big wave, and then you got the little movements to the downside, testing the lows a few more times, 84, 83.5, right? And then you get that little rangy bounce corrective structure. It could be a running flat, okay? It could be a running flat. It could be a zigzag. It could be, you know, a double zigzag, right? And then it rolls over. It could be many scenarios. So just like the last few days, you know, what we're discussing is this the low of the impulse right over here? Is this the low of the impulse, right? We're looking for either a flat, we're looking for a triangle potential, right? All of the scenarios point out south, regardless of the flat or whatever it does happen. You know, we are looking for inevitably that rollover based on the information that we have. Likely an impulse, likely we're forming some kind of a correction here. We need to detect, you know, which one it is. I did get some people asking me, you know, well, why not short at 90k and add to the position at 92k, right? If it forms the flat. It's all about how you want to manage the trade, right? Because, yeah, I mean, you could have got into the short and, you know, be ready to add to that short position if you're targeting minus 80k. Add one, you know, get into 1%. If the price action decides it wants to go to 92, 93, you know, you realize that you're coming up to, you know, you're underwater, add to the position. It really depends on how you're managing your trade there. But I know you can get into that very toxic spiral here, because it has happened to me in the past, and I don't usually recommend this, because you will have the idea that, okay, I'm just going to risk 3% max, right? Which is, you know, I know the story because I've been there, and I know a lot of people do not trade like that. I get so many comments and so many DMs of people saying, I'm short here, I'm long here, I'm underwater, I'm 20% down, you know, I'm going to get liquidated. It's an absolute fiesta, okay, the trading industry, and you need to have your rules very well grounded. And you know, you can get into that death spiral here of, I'm going to enter with 1%, maybe 2% here, 3%, 4%, and then then you're risking 20% or 50% of your account, right? Without you realizing that. So it's dangerous activity, right? That is dangerous activity when you think about adding to the position, because that is a full recipe that if it does not play out as we thought it was going to play out, you end up getting liquidated, right? So just have your rules very well grounded, right? And you know, never risk more than, I like to say 3%, but I would say 5%. You could even stretch it to 5%. But you need to have a barrier where it's stop, right? That's it. So anyway, the possible scenarios here are those ones, okay? Anybody that wants to get into this little bounce, you know, look no further. There's a big volume move to the downside. If anybody wants to get into a short position, you know, you're just understanding that, well, in this case, from this lower high, you know, you are looking for the rejection in this zone to test the lows. Of course, you can hit the 382 or the 50%. That's all depends if you want to risk 1% and then another 1% here. Stop loss is at golden pocket. You are targeting the lows. So it's all about, you know, managing that trade. Interesting that the 382 here is exactly at this lower high, so that would have been a kind of an interesting one. If you want these perfect executions, right, which is like getting into an SFP or a high volume node, then, you know, ideally this would have been the one at the 382 Fibonacci from the start of the move down that we had today. there was a little stop, right? A little bit of an order block, if you wish, on the lower time frame. And that order block is what we are getting the resistance. But it's always nice to test the high of the order block, because it's a natural zone where there's some stops. And, you know, some SFPs there are quite nice. So if you would have asked me about getting internally here into a new scalp short position just to test the lows, I think the 382 Fibonacci from this high to the low with that lower high of the order block would have been the, you know, kind of the perfect execution if you want to stretch it to a 3-to-1 risk reward kind of setup, right? For me, it's the only way. You need to remain patient. You need to hit the level. If you don't hit it, then you don't trade it, right? But when you don't have much confluence, I mean, it was an order block. I'm not sure if it is on the 15-minute, right? Yeah, 15-minute order block right there. And that's currently what's acting as resistance at the moment, as you can see. So when you consider this being a bearish impulse in a wave 3, you understand that your wave 4s should top out in this region to then only roll over and test the lows after a big volume breakout. So as explained at the beginning of the stream, right, this is your shorting area and you're looking for the price to hit the lows again, right? Anybody that wants to get into that internal scalp short position, that's how it goes. Let's say hello to the beautiful community now. Yes, guys, it is about time to go a little bit through the comment section. Andy, 91.1 to 83 for ending diagonal. Interesting. Yeah, we can. Is there any changes to pump again? Well, I tell you what. What would be a good long setup here for a scalp? Okay. We want to be a little bit cautious. We want to be very, very selective. Somebody asking about a pump here. Price is moving down with high volume. And we do not know if the market wants to capitulate tonight, because this could be a wave 1, 2. And man, this has time. Maybe this is just the start of the capitulation. This is the risk that there is right now with the longs. Anybody that wants to take longs here needs to be very, very selective. Very, very selective and know exactly the level that you want to get into and exactly where you're putting your stop loss. So I can explain a little bit here what, you know, where there would be an aggressive long position, and naturally it would be at this higher low as an SFP, because we did hit that low, formed a little SFP. We got a bounce of $500 or so, right? Maybe slightly more from this low here that we have from the 18th of December. This is actually a good, interesting one also. Something that is interesting, the main reason that we're getting a little reaction here as well, is Fibonacci from the low of November to the high is the 7.8. So the 7.8 Fibonacci from this low of November to the high is exactly where we have that higher low, which we did get an internal reaction bounce of $500-600, right, in the last hour. These are aggressive longs when you got this price action moving down like this with high volume. I can get a long ready if you want for you. Of course, you just need to remain patient and know exactly what we're looking for. But I would treat them as scalps, because when you understand this long position, if you have a high volume move to the downside from today, you realize that the bounces could be very, very shallow. You know, hitting the 236 Fibonacci, 382, and you roll back down to test the lows for the 4 and 5, right? Which is kind of what is happening, right, on the lower time frame, right? You understand that if you're trying to catch a high volume move down at an SFP level, you know, you're looking for very, very likely, just because the movement is down, for wave 4 bounces. Where do wave 4 bounce to? 236, 382 Fibonacci. So, you know, the moment you start getting into this territory, you want to get the heck out of the long position, because you are going against the big major move down, right? So yeah, if you asked me about another long position, it would have to be this higher low for a scalp, possible scalp long. You know, it would be interesting to create a low, form a bit of a double bottom and a little bit of a range without taking out that low. So then we can understand, as we've taken out that low with decreasing volume, I understand that we have a 1-2, losing the voice here, a 1-2 here. I mean, you could fit another one here. It doesn't really matter at this point. Another 1-2 right there, either sideways or this one is the end of wave 2. You know, you got at least 2 wave 1s and 2 here. So if you were to create that low here to finish this as a wave 3, then, and you get that larger bounce in the next coming hours, okay, a little bit more sideways and a bit more extended in time, similar to the timing of these wave 2s, maybe a little bit longer, with decreasing volume as you do test the lows, then it becomes an interesting SFP here. You might form a 1 more low and then, you know, maybe 1 or 2 more lows here, you know, throughout the next, you know, 1 to 2 days, right? Between today and tomorrow, basically. And they are aggressive. You need to get that swing failure. You need to get the reaction, and you need to execute it as soon as the price gets above it on, you know, the 1 minute time frame. Stop loss beneath a low, and you're only looking for a scalp long in this case. It's aggressive. It's but if you have a plan and you know how to execute it with good risk management, that would be a plan if you want to get into a scalp long at this in this environment. You know, there's no major longs here to get a massive rally. You know, the B wave here of a flat, but you know, this is dangerous. You know, not a zone to look for any swing longs at this point. I can tell you that. They are risky regardless if you get the bounce or not. It's not something that I would want to participate in and say I'm going to build a long position right now, right? And stop loss is below 80k, right? That's not, it's not the moment to do that. This is not the moment to do that kind of trading, I have to say. With this aggressive move to the downside, understanding the risks of the wave 3, understanding that this could be another wave 1 and 2, and then you break down in a wave 3. The similarities that we do have, right, from 2022, from the bars pattern here. I've lost it now, but you get the deal. We've been talking about it in the last few days. You understand that there's too much risk here to even think about a swing long position, you know, to go to 100k. It's not the chart is not, you know, is not telling us that. The chart is telling us that that is wishful thinking, and we do not trade based on wishful thinking. We trade, you know, facts. We trade what we have on the chart, right? Trade the chart that you have, not the one that you want. So yeah, it's a little bit here. What about the longs, right? Somebody asking about, you know, what is the long scenarios here. Long scenarios are not looking very, very attractive. You know, you want to be fast, you want to be ferocious. Yeah, I would say, yeah, these are aggressive longs if you do get that SFP from here. But you want to get the heck out as soon as you hit the 236, 382 Fibonacci from the latest move down, because, you know, there's a good chance that this is on the formation of an impulse. If not, capitulate down and continue with the wave 3 here. So you want to be extremely cautious and have very, very good risk management and just execute the exact pivots. And I have to say, you know, it is an acceptable scalp long, anybody that wants to take it, if we do get down there at that higher low. understanding that we did get a little slowdown, and yeah, also understanding that, you know, we might be forming that 4-5 here locally, very, very local. If this is your top of the wave 2, and this is another wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you know, you might get that little reaction bounce. Quick entry on the reaction stop loss. You do a 2-to-1 risk reward. You're hitting the 236 Fibonacci. You get the heck out, right? It's just there's no. This is a scalp. There's no swing trade here to go to 91K literally at this point. So yeah, just somebody asking about that situation here. So yeah, shorts are very much an advantage. I think it would make sense if you do create a couple of more lows here, that if we do get that bounce between today and tomorrow to that 86, 87K region, hitting the Valley area low, legends, it's going to be a shorting opportunity, in my opinion. You're just going to be back testing the Valley area low, point of control, and we literally look for the price to roll over to $80,000. Will we get that opportunity? Maybe yes. It might just capitulate today, right? So we might get it. We understand the market, so maybe the market wants to move as, you know, as we're planning it to move, but it doesn't have to. We just know it's very much a possibility that it could happen. So happy to hold on into that short, maybe add to this short, depending on the price action that is formed in the next few days. You know, because the plan was to make this short very, very big. It could end up very big. You know, this could end up being a $50,000 profit short trade in the next 2-3 weeks if we head up down to 75K, right? So and that's very much a reality. That shorts right now are in advantage, really, on the higher time frame, right? Lower time frame, if you want to get into little scalps on long positions, that's totally okay. You can get into scalp longs, but just treat them as little scalps, be defensive, take the profits and run away, right? So anyway, if you are interested in trading, guys, you do have some great exchanges down below in the description. You do have Bluffin, there is Velto as well, BTCC, you got Weak, Spybits, lots of them. Velto is absolutely awesome. You do get very, very low fees on Velto. It's a 0.02 take a fee, guys, which is extremely low. You got great bonuses on Bluffin as well. Bluffin is offering VIP1 as soon as you sign up, okay? And you get the $1,000 deposit bonus if you deposit 10K, and you're getting airdrops of up to 9,400 the more you trade. The more you trade, you're going to get these airdrops into your account, guys, so you can use for trading, and that is using the first link in the description for Bluffin or Velto. Go the decentralized option if you wish. No middleman. You can connect your Ledger, MetaMask, whatever wallet you have into Velto, which is awesome. Mark Dutch, my man, he is here, the legend himself, my man. It's you know, it's a pleasure to see you here. CBM, should I hold my 97K short to 60K? Is this it? Is this it? I mean, yes, we are very much in favor on the higher time frame for 80,000 and even lower, right? When we do get the bars pattern from 2022, which is literally mirroring the situation here. The main discussion that we were having in the last few days is, you know, do we get that wick? We kind of got it, but it was in a running flat by the looks of things. We were discussing in the last few days, you know, do we get that bounce that has the potential to take out 91 and then we go down, or do we form a running flat, which was the case, triangle, regular flat? So higher time frame was in favor, right? The overall lower time frame is just really looking at, do we form this correction or that correction, right? Most of the scenarios we're looking for the correction man, if you tell me, you know, 60,000 Bitcoin in the next couple of months, yeah, it's very real, very, very real. Let's be honest. You know, it's very, very real when we do take a look at the price action from 2022. So we are looking for a third wave capitulation. And in 2022, you know, after forming that 3-wave move to the upside, this is just a 1-2 and another 1-2. You know, you're going to end up capitulating in a wave 3 at some point. So do we get it tonight? Or do we form another 1-2 here and it happens, you know, by next week? That is the main question at the moment. You know, the flat scenario, it would be very interesting if we were to get that short squeeze, right? Little short squeeze first of all, and then roll over. It would just bring a great shorting opportunity if that were to be the case. But we're already $6,000 away, right? 7,000 at the moment. But the market can be ferocious. It can get a movement of $5,000 in a matter of a few hours. So it's not looking great for that scenario. I have to say, it's not looking great. We're just about to test the lows here. Oh, we've tested the lows already, which is fine. It is fine. Because when you zoom out, when you do zoom out on the 1 hour chart, it is still acceptable to understand that this is still part of the wave here. But yeah, it's a little bit unrealistic at this point. A little bit unreal, and we have a problem with this wave, which we were discussing in the last few days as well. There is a big problem with this. If you want to fit this as a 5-wave move down, it's not looking pretty. You know, and we've been proven that is the case, because if this would have been the 5th wave, this bounce was very, very shallow. It's, you know, if this had to be a double zigzag, you know, we didn't even hit the 382 Fibonacci. Almost did. Maybe on some exchanges we did. We just barely almost scratched it. But the problem is timing here. It's very shallow in time. This is very, very small pullback compared to this impulse. You want a little bit of a symmetrical in time correction, right? It's a little bit more symmetrical in timing, which we can fit nicely when we were going through the original idea of the impulsive move down here, right? That fits in nice for the impulse, this right over here. So when you take a look at the timing from this and the running flat, it's nice and symmetrical in timing. So yeah, as it stands, it is low probability that we consider this the impulse, and we consider this a double zigzag, and this right now being a 3-wave structure basically. We need to get that pump in the coming hours. It's fine with this test of the lows. It's if we rally from here in the next 3-4 hours to hit that 86.7k level, which it's wishful thinking at this point, but that would be a crucial pivot to understand the possibilities of the ABC flat. Running flat or expanding flat, it doesn't matter. But the reality is that this does have low probability at the moment. And one of the main reasons why, as we were discussing throughout the last few days, is this movement to the downside. It doesn't look great as a impulse. And yeah, we're literally moving down pretty damn aggressively. The main reason you want to give this a chance is because, yes, you can fit a 5-wave down here. You can. We are hitting the B wave target zone, which is the 1236 to the 1382 of your A wave. So, you know, if this is a double zigzag in an A wave, and this is going to prove itself here with a major bounce in the coming hours to invalidate, you know, the wave 4. Wave 4s need a reject at the 236 to the 50% Fibonacci zone. They are shallow pullbacks, testing the lows a couple of times between today and tomorrow. Then you would naturally say, you know, this movement down is impulsive, which then the bounce you need to look for shorts on the bounce if we finish those waves here. So yeah, doesn't look great. Doesn't look great for, you know, the ABC flat, running flat or regular flat. But there is a chance, and the chance increases in probabilities if we bounce from here in the coming hours to hit that 86.7k. Okay, without ranging and testing the lows here, because then it's going to be clear that this is an impulse. We'll be looking at something similar to this, where we had an impulse here, we're looking for a range and then roll down. It's going to be the same story here if we create those lows, just as we created the lows here, right? Then that's it, guys. You know, we're looking for whatever happens here to capitulate later on. And this is not the big move. This is not the big move yet, because the big move, as we understand with the bars pattern here, you know, the big move is this one, you know, the $10,000 move that happens in a matter of a few days. Today already we had a $4,000 move from 88k to 84. Yeah, that's not the big move. You know, we're looking for a big move potentially in a week or two that really, you know, takes out 80k and goes to 75k and maybe even lower. So it's all trying to understand right now is, you know, do we get one more 1 and 2? Do we form the magical flat or not? But we are looking for south, guys. We are looking for south for the next coming weeks and months, very, very likely, unless something changes on the lower time frame. So yeah, much love, Mark Dutch. We got Devil here. I'll have set time soon, guys. I need to give this announcement because we're making this legit. Devil is going to be doing video updates, even live streams as well on the channel here. Okay, we're going to be also doing collaborations. We're going to do a duo. We're getting a combination. You know, I'm more than happy that Devil joins me here on the channel, because we have a very similar way of analyzing and a very similar way of looking for the opportunity zones. And Devil will be doing earlier updates, either live streams or video updates. And I'll be doing the New York Open session. Okay, many days where there's going to be 2 video updates on YouTube. So if you like that, smash up the like button. If you don't know who Devil is, go and subscribe to his channel. But he will be starting to do video updates on my channel as well, mainly live streams, I would assume. But so we have a 5-6 hour gap, and we can keep the community also updated here on YouTube. Okay, which is I think is great. Jerome is around. Yeah, we need to be careful with Jerome's comments. Yes, make the line go lower, Andy. It's so sexy. There we go. I need to be careful with this guy's comments. Not you know, read them out. Not loud. Don't read them out loud. I can't believe you were laughing at me at 93k and above while I was asking to add to my short when we were still trading at 92. I wasn't laughing to anyone. I don't laugh about anybody here. I knew bear market was coming when Andy had washed his hair with shampoo and used the hairdryer the other day. Man, these comments are absolutely epic. Andy, we might be doing an ending diagonal. What should we expect next in that case? Can you please say it again? An ending diagonal. We might be doing an ending diagonal. What time frame? You need to let me know what time frame here. Ending diagonal somewhere from this high, from the highs to 98k. I don't see any ending diagonal here. Was that the lower time frame? That's the higher time frame. What time frame? From what pivot to what pivot? I need a little bit of coordinates here, because from here to here I don't see any ending diagonal. From here to here, no ending diagonal for the moment. So yeah, man, that is crazy that you and Devil are going for this. Let's go. You have Patron. Very much so, very much so. It's happening, it's happening, bro. I see you. We are on the 4 hour OB order block. 4 hour order block on Bitcoin. Well, I'm not sure if you are considering a 4 hour order block from this area. I mean, this was tested already. 4 hour order block. Yeah, I'm not sure which one you are considering here. I hope it's not this one. Andy and Devil, Dream Team. It is happening. It is happening. So it's going to be absolutely awesome. You know, there'll be much more updates as well. And Andy diagonal starting from 91k pivot. Okay, let's take a look at that, man. Task. Andy, he said 5 minutes. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's go 5-10 minutes. Okay, we've got someone else saying ending diagonal from 91k, but somebody saying here the 5 minute. Let's go through that. Possible ending diagonal on the 5 minute, but from 91k. Someone saying here from 91k. Man, I'm gonna get confused here. If it is from this 91k, or you're treating this as 91, this was 90.5k, this is 91k, 91.1k. Ending diagonal from here. It would, well, if you are considering this pivot, I mean, it would have to be an expanding one on the formation, and that is, expanding diagonals are not common at all. Okay, they're like very, very uncommon to see on the chart. But I'm not sure if you're talking about this 91k pivot, for this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is very, very, very rare. Naturally, you would see that bounce here throughout the next couple of weeks. But man, this would be rare. I mean, it's not out of the cards eventually, but we would consider this. I'm not sure if this is the one that you're looking at. It would have to be expanding regardless. Somebody was saying about an ending diagonal on the 5 minute. I do not know where that ending diagonal would be on the 5 minute here. We just have a big move down from today with high volume. You don't consider ending diagonals or any type of diagonal if you have a multiple 1, 2 and a big wave 3 and you're just grinding here to the downside. You know, there's no diagonal. It's an impulse. It's possibly an impulse on the formation. So yeah, no rate cuts. BTC in trouble. You're damn right. 5 minute time frame, lower degree waves. Yeah, this is the 5 minute time frame. You know, this is the 5 minute time frame, lower degree waves, so lower time frame waves. I cannot see any type of ending diagonal here. I mean, unless you know you're speculating on, yeah, it's just not happening. Not happening at the moment. If you were to form this, I mean, yeah, you cannot speculate on an ending diagonal if you have only one wave. If we were to have this, and then this, then we would say, okay, you know, maybe we could be forming an ending diagonal from here to finish that wave 5. But man, 5-minute ending diagonal, we cannot speculate on an ending diagonal when we only have a wave 1. You can't get it from here. You can't get it from here because this is the biggest move with volume. So I'm not sure if you get the point here. We can't speculate on an ending diagonal with only one wave. And with this wave, well, it would have to be an expanding one. And you never want to really speculate on expanding diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't want to speculate on this because it's just low probability expanding. Yes, speculating way in advance. Okay. Yeah. Yes, thanks. Exactly what I was tracking, just to have all the possibilities there. Okay, Booba trading. Yeah, it would have to be expanding at the moment. Diagonals look interesting once you have your, you know, fourth wave coming into fruition, right? Having that fourth wave formation, then you can start thinking we might be forming either a contracting diagonal or a leading diagonal. But when you have other scenarios in play, which in this case, you got 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you probably create the longer 4th 5 and 4 and 5. You want to always consider a regular impulsive move on the formation as priority, because it is the common way how the market moves, right? Just when we zoom out in the last few days, right, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or do we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? It's the most common thing is the third wave being an impulse, and then what happens next? You can speculate either in a flat, either in a triangle, either in a, you're looking at the correction. And then the move down, right? So, and diagonals, you want your wave 4 in, basically. You want to have your wave 4, and then, then you could speculate on them. You know what? This, you could have speculated on a diagonal here. Well, no, sorry, my bad. Not really. There was no diagonal to speculate on here. If this is your wave 4, if you would have had a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, and a lower low, then here is when you think, okay, right, that's your wave 1, that's your wave 2, that's your wave 3, that's your wave 4. And as soon as you have a lower high, a lower low, and another lower high, then you think, okay, it could be a ending diagonal in your wave 5. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here a double bottom could be interesting, right? Speculating on the 5th wave of the ending diagonal. But if you are speculating way in advance on a low probability pattern, which is a diagonal, with the wave 1 and not even having the wave 2, it's like you don't want to do that. You want to speculate on it when you get your wave 4 coming in, right, or getting close to being in. Much love, Mark Dutch, my man. Should we go for a long now? I mean, we didn't hit that higher low. These are very, very, very aggressive scalp longs. I did say if we do tackle that low, we could consider a scalp long. If we do get that bounce here and then we tackle the low again, it might create a little reaction bounce, but we are in no kind of market environment to speculate on like big long positions or add to long positions or any of that. I mean, you if you have a strategy and you manage risk, but for the moment we are prioritizing this as being a wave 3. And if this is a wave 3 after forming the 1-2s that we had yesterday, right throughout Wednesday, then naturally what you could form is the tackling the lows here a couple of times before getting the bigger bounce. It does become more interesting to look for the long. This would be an aggressive long position, because if you're looking for a double bottom here and stop loss at the low, it's very, very aggressive if you want to believe that we are going to get a bigger bounce. We did explain that the bigger bounce, there's always a bullish case or a bearish case. There's always when we consider Elliott Wave theory, even though they have low probability. But this would be the speculative bounce that has low probability at the moment, which would be forming a ABC flat, just because this can be counted as a 3 wave. And man, this doesn't have a lot of time here. It's not looking great. A few lows here right now, as we did, we would have to get a significant bounce in the next coming hours without forming so many lows here in the range, because that would kind of confirm that this is an impulse. But if you want to like speculate on the bounce that this is going, we are hitting the B wave target, I wouldn't go crazy on this. If you want to speculate on this happening, you know, this is low probability at the moment, and there's higher probability that this is a impulsive move still in the end formation, which you want that 4 and 5 situation here, unless you capitulate down here in the next coming hours. And you know, we're looking still at the wave 3 formation. We are at a very, very capitulative environment at the moment when we consider the higher time frame, right? When we do consider the higher time frame, it's like we want to be very, very cautious with any type of longs here. You can get into little scalp longs, as explained. It depends on your strategy, right? It depends if you're looking for little scalps or you're looking for a swing trade. Well, swing trade, you know, to 91k is not looking great. It's not looking too great. The ABC flat formation, which it needs to bottom out here. It needs to bottom out without hitting, well, I mean, yeah, the 1.618 would be well off, and we're not too far away. We're just $1,000 away from hitting the 1.618, and that is not a B wave target of a flat. So if there is going to be a local bullish bounce here, it needs to bounce from this zone urgently in the next coming hours. Max take out this low maybe, and then get the bigger bounce. But it you know, that is pure speculation, and you are going against the probabilities. So probabilities is that an impulsive move is on the finishing formation, right, which is going to be ranging, taking out the lows, ranging, taking out the lows, right, to form that 4 and 5 wave here at the moment. But if we talk about chances, yeah, there is a chance, and it would have to seriously bounce where we are right now in the next coming hour pretty aggressively. Once you take out 86,700, you realize that the flat formation here is very much a possibility in the next coming days. But you know, seriously, not counting on it. You know, not counting on it. What would make more sense if we do not capitulate from here? Okay, which there is a chance, guys. Let's just say there is a chance. You know, it might just capitulate. We're looking for exhaustion here with low volume, but the reality is different. The reality is, you know, we might not get those four. Realize that you want to get into the big move, right? Big move can happen from here. In the next couple of days, we could form another wave 1 and 2, and then we break down, right? It's really discussing the situation right now of when do we get down below 80k, right? And how do we get down there? You know, does it happen tonight? Does it happen with another wave 2, another wave 1 and 2, right? Which would be this drawing right over here. And if we do tackle the lows a few more times here, and we get the bounce on the lower time frame, right? So we got a little range, we tackle the lows, we range, you tackle the lows on the lower time frame. It would be between today and tomorrow, just for the symmetry, right? Just for the symmetry of this. 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 5. And then tomorrow we end up sweeping up 85.5k, maybe stretch to 86k zone. You know, naturally that would be an interesting zone to consider the short positions. You know, you're coming into a big zone where we did get a beautiful bounce last week. You know, this is a long that I did get into. And as soon as we lost 88.7k, we lost the structure for the multiple 1-2s, right? For that flat, you know, time to collect profits. You know, this is a day trade with the chance to hit 91k. It has a chance. I know as soon as I got into this long position at 86k zone, I knew there was a chance to get above 91k. So then what you need to do as a trader is understand the bounce, understand the momentum. And as we mentioned on the stream yesterday, you know, we don't want to lose the last higher low on the lower time frame, because the only thing that we have in this structure would be multiple 1-2s. There's no impulse. We ended up forming a diagonal, of course, with the highs of yesterday, a possible diagonal. But that a leading diagonal is never bullish, right? For a 1 2 3 4 5 or ABC, ending diagonals are more common than a leading diagonal. And what we have here is the more common diagonal, which would be ending diagonal in a wave C, ending diagonal for wave 5s or Cs, leading diagonals for wave A's or wave 1s, low probability. So as soon as you lose 88.7k, you know, you need to take profits. It's a day trade. It was a little swing trade. You know, this was no long position to consider that we're going to go to 100k. It might, but you need to understand the structure and the probabilities. We lose 88.7. You know, I'm getting out of that position, right? Taking most of the profits and leave a bit open just to get stopped out at break even today. So I was pointing out that to the trading community. So that's how we trade, right? That's how we trade. So understanding obviously the higher time frame, right? We're just really looking for that bounce to end at some stage, the range to end, either an ABC flat, either a triangle, they're all corrective structures, just to come to the conclusion that, you know, when are we going to break down, right? Is it going to be in the next couple of days, next week? What correction do we form? Anyway, let's go through the comment section, see what the legends, they are shorting hard. War and government shutdown. 83k has to hold. If not, 75k is next. yeah, I think it's a matter of time, right, that we do get down to sub 80k. It could actually be even tonight if we decide that if it's capitulating, right? We could definitely be capitulating in a wave 3 tonight, because we have a valid wave 1 right over here, and we have a valid wave 2. Based on timing, we almost scratched the 382. I mean, you could consider that it has hit the 382 Fibonacci, but based on timing, you got a running flat. That's your wave 2 at the moment. What we're looking at here is the breakdown in a wave 3. And the overall question here is this a wave 1? And we get another wave 2, and then we break in 3, or do we break in 3 directly now, right? Between today and tomorrow. And so that's the overall main question here. But on the higher time frame, it is like it's kind of written in stone, as they would say, right? It's just the highest probability at this moment, especially when you consider the higher time frame, right? 3-wave structure, impulsive move, very corrective, ending up in a running flat with an ending diagonal. That was the name of the game here in the end. So market puking Bitcoin. People will regret these low prices soon. Like to buy. Time will show. Yeah, time will show. The probabilities. I always hold my banana. These comments, man, we need to be careful with these comments. Guys, make sure to destroy the like button. I'm just going to get a drink of water. I'll go through the comment section right away, and we'll discuss a little bit of the scenarios. But damn, we are breaking down. We're testing the lows. Well, no reaction at that higher low that we do have for the moment. And it just does look like that we want to go to lower prices. Might be getting some exhaustion here. Volume is decreasing, so this is what we want to see in the next 24 hours. The bigger move happening, you get that exhaustion here, and then the little bounce tomorrow, and we might even have a good swing, another swing short opportunity if that bounce wants to happen here after having that impulsive move, right? Because the idea here is that we are forming an impulse to the downside. Local bullish scenario is not looking great. It's not looking great. It's let's take a look at this. It's not looking great because of this wave already, but that's this being an ABC flat. We're almost hitting the 1.618 extension, and that's the moment that you realize that we're not looking for a flat here anymore. This is not a B wave flat target, the 1.618. So we are just $500 literally, no less than that, sorry, $400 to literally kind of invalidate the local bullish scenario, which is the flat structure basically, right? Potential not looking great. We're rolling over. Much love to everybody. I'm just going to get a drink of water, stretch my legs, and I'll go through the comment section right away. And we'll discuss a few scenarios. We can take a look at some other charts, maybe gold, maybe S&P 500. Just gonna get a drink, smash up the like button if you do enjoy the content. How many likes do we have here already? Over 500 people watching. Smash up the like button. And we got 200 likes. We can do better than that, legends. Okay. So, you know what? I am going to start DCAing into Bitcoin, guys. I am going to start DCAing into Bitcoin once we lose $80,000. And you might think, hang on a minute, you know, aren't we going to go to 70 and 60K and maybe even 50K in the next coming months? I just think it's starting to be a right time to DCA. You know, I'm not here to catch the ultimate bottom and catch, you know, $40,000 Bitcoin. You know, I would be more than happy to start DCAing for my Bitcoin holding again for the next few years. I started DCAing into Bitcoin in the previous cycle in below $30,000, and I mean we were live on the channel. You know, you know, my channel was created in 2020 in September, down over here, and made this very, very public, just as I'm doing right now. I started DCAing once we broke below $30,000, and we had many months here, many months to DCA very aggressively. And you might, you know, after a few years, it doesn't really matter, right? I've bought Bitcoin at many levels: 25, 22, 20, 18, 20 again, 22, you know, it doesn't really matter, right? After a few years. So it just gives you time, you know. I don't know if you know, do have cash flow from whatever, right? From your business or from trading or from, you know, renting property, and, you know, you want to, you know, or whatever, or from working, right? Yeah. It's not a bad idea to start DCAing it, right? But naturally, that it doesn't mean that, oh, below 80K, right? And then I start putting all in, right? All in into Bitcoin. Absolutely not. You know, it's just starting to be attractive to start buying below 80K, because I know that there is high probability that we're going to see all-time high again in the next few years for Bitcoin. So, of course, it could be aggressive, it could be messy, we could go even down to 40K. But at the end of the day, in the next few years, it doesn't really matter, right? When you've DCA'd, when price is trading at $180,000, right? You know, I bought Bitcoin at 60K, at 70K, at, you know, 50K. the amount, the rewards are definitely decreasing, right? The risk to reward is decreasing, right? The return on investment, the ROI, is decreasing naturally with Bitcoin. I'm kind of looking more into get into stocks, but uranium, I think, or something, getting into the energy. I tell you what, crude oil looks amazing. You can trade oil on a few of the exchanges in crypto. You can also trade gold on Bluffin. Bluffin got a massive bonus, guys, down below on Bluffin in the description. You get VIP 1 instantly as soon as you sign up. That decreases your fees massively. $1,000 deposit if you deposit 10K. And you got rewards being airdropped the more you trade, guys. Take advantage of the bonuses. You got Bluffin, you got Belto, BTCC as well down below. And oil is something that I am looking very much. I haven't analyzed it properly yet, but yeah, next corrections could be very, very. I don't want to long eventually after this major pump. But I think oil is very much in a bullish pennant, right? If we're keeping it simple, this is like a multi-month swing trade, and we use oil for everything. And I do see a very, very bullish structure here, and a very, very bullish pennant. on oil, and it's like this is like a major swing trade for the next coming months. But anyway, we're not here to we'll probably integrate this levels and possible scenarios, Elliott Wave theory, especially with Devilt. Been talking to him. We might integrate S&P 500 proper analysis instead of just drawing some lines and speculation, doing like proper analysis on S&P 500, gold, silver, oil, and we might bring that into the channel as well, instead of just mainly Bitcoin. Smash up the like button if you do like that idea. Absolute legend Ramsey. Ooh, we're getting a lot of memberships here. Absolute legend. Barefoot Sailing Adventures, much love to you. Much love to everybody. Thanks for joining the stream today and subscribing. BTC going to bottom between 30 and 50k. 80k buy is crazy on spot, says Steve. It's DCAing. It's DCAing, Steve. You know, it all depends on it, on every, you know, your strategies. But I am happy to start. You know, DCAing is DCAing. You know, I might put 5% of my cash once it loses 80k. You know, I'm not going all in. As explained, you know, I started DCAing Bitcoin in the previous bear market once we lost 30k. So naturally, at these prices today, right after 3-4 years, you know, it's still in good profit, right? Buying at 25k Bitcoin, 20k, 28k, it doesn't matter, right? You know that there is reward in the coming years. So not much to discuss really. It needs to form a slowdown. Let's see if it does chop. We get a bounce tomorrow. Getting a bounce tomorrow, I have to say, it's going to be looking interesting for more shorts, guys. Right, as explained, when we do take a look at this scenario, right, it really doesn't matter where you short here. If in a few weeks you're going to be trading below $80,000, but we want to be selective with the entries, right? We want to be selective with the swing entries. Let's go continue through the comment section right away. Steve, much love to you, my man. I know the projection is actually lower. Okay, I understand that we are looking for Bitcoin to not double bottom at 80k. I mean, I'm not expecting that. Okay, when we do take a look at the higher time frame, not expecting a double bottom here and an absolute massive recovery. Even though it is possible. You know what is interesting about what we are looking for here, I think what has priority at the moment for Bitcoin in the I mean there's so much time in the bear market, right? If we are looking for the bear market, if it is going to be similar to the previous cycles, so far it's been proving itself very accurate with the previous cycle price action. We are looking for the bottom to form at the end of the year at some point, right? And for the moment, what we have as priority when we consider Elliott Wave theory is that this is a 3-wave structure to the downside, only because this bounce that we had since November is too long in price action, okay, to consider that this is the scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I know maybe a lot of people are looking at this as when we consider Elliott Wave theory on the higher time frame, right? Just your wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, that's your wave 4. Wave 4s are usually longer. And then the wave 5, right? It just fits in pretty nicely. But when you go a little bit more into detail, your wave 4 was over 5 times longer than your wave 2, and that is very, very long. It is very, very long. Okay, it is okay to get a wave 4 that is twice the length. That this blue vertical line is a 2-to-1, okay, on timing. That would be twice the length of your wave 2. That's okay. Even 3 times longer is okay. But, you know, when you get into 6 times longer, you know, this is an individual wave. You know, this is something else. You know, it's not part of this impulsive move down. So one thing that is also in the guidelines of Elliott Wave theory is taking a channel from your wave 1 and 2 here. And your wave 4 usually rejects at the lower half of the channel. So your wave 3 gets out of the channel, and then your wave 4, you know, usually tops out in the lower half of the channel when you cut the channel from your wave 1 and 2. We went well beyond out of the channel here. So that just tells you that it's something, you know, this wave that we had from the lows in November is something else. So that automatically, as this has been the biggest wave to the downside, tells you the idea that, you know, this has been a 3-wave structure. You formed a complex range here, and you're looking at this to be a 3-waver. So as you have a 3-waver here to the downside in an ABC, in this case, you know, you're looking at this to be a wave W. Now, is this the wave X? You can have a 3-wave move down here in that WXY that we were discussing throughout the last couple of months, right? WXY formation to then roll over. But what is interesting is that if you have a 3-wave move to the upside, now you got a wave 1, wave, you know, a second wave here in that running flat. You could be forming a 3-wave move here just to test the lows below $80,000, and throughout February, maybe part of March, you get that a bit of a relief rally. A lot of people have been commenting about hitting the 50 weekly moving average and you know, back testing it, right? Because it's common to back test, or the, you know, the rainbow bands or whatever, and getting a bigger relief rally before continuing the bear market. A lot of people were calling a few weeks ago that, you know, we're heading up to 100k, 102k, 104k. You know, we were seeing in the comment section. That did not happen, right? But it could happen still. It could still happen, and you could form an ABC flat here, because you know, you got a 3-wave up. This could end up in a 3-waver, right? We're looking for the capitulation. We're looking at the similarities of the previous bear market, but history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. So maybe we've got so much bearishness and so many shorts that we end up getting a short squeeze on the higher time frame before we continue the bear market. It's not something that I'm counting on. It's just something that I understand that it could happen. And based on the information that we'll get in the next 1 to 2 weeks, we'll understand that, guys, you know, this is something very much that we could be looking for here, and it might be interesting to look for longs, right? So, yeah, this by no means this would only be a local bullish move, because I would expect, naturally, I mean, this would still be very, very shallow in Fibonacci, yeah, to maybe continue later on throughout the summer, April, May, and entering into the summer, right? If this is going to be aggressive move in February, to just move down again in a zigzag, you know, heading to 60, 50k, right, till the end of the year. And it would only be it would just be a stop in the middle of the bear market, right? It's possible, you know. I think it's something that could happen. You need those short squeezes as well, right? you need a lot of people are going to be eyeing, what's happened in the previous bear market, and it would be an interesting short squeeze that we always want to be aware of, just to bring a new great swing short position for the next coming months, right? So we'll be eyeing the lower time frames, of course. This will be detected if it is a possibility on the 1 hour, right, 4 hour, 1 hour time frame. If we end up forming a stop here below $80,000, of course, naturally, this needs to bottom out very close to $80,000, right? Your max level to hit is literally the low 70K levels, right? Which is the 1236 to the 1382 Fibonacci extension from your A wave. And the moment you hit 70K, then we're looking for that double zigzag. We're looking for the zigzag here to just continue, very, very likely, right, in the next coming months to lower prices. But it is a possibility. Let's leave it that way. This will be detected depending on the bounces that we get, right, in the next week. Will there be a chance for this? Well, naturally, we need some price action to identify here the possibilities of this happening. But it's one of those bullish local scenarios, right, that people can get surprised, right? This is very, very good to when we consider the psychology, right, as well, of trading. A lot of people are going to get very, very bearish. A lot of people are going to call for much, much lower. And we always get those relief rallies. We always get those short squeezes, right? Remembering just a few weeks ago when we had this price action over here, and you have the bear flag, right? This is a bear flag. This is a wave 4, right? It's just it's going to break down, right? You have this scenario. It's a bear flag, and we're breaking the trend of the bear flag. We're looking for 80K naturally, right? The ones that don't have too much experience with the combination of different structures that could happen here. We took out the highs. You know how many stop losses there are up here. People are going to be speculating on this swing short for the next coming months because we broke the trend line, right? And it's a bear flag. You can see here, right? A few weeks later, it's just it's eventually getting all those stops, and then it rolls over, right? So naturally, when we go with that psychology, people will not believe that we're going to hit plus 98K in the next month. I'm telling you already, but I'm telling you, it is a possibility to form a flat here, just to stop out people and go down in the bear market later on. So, this would be an awesome swing short opportunity. But I know right now it's like, yeah, we ain't going to go up there, I think, anytime soon. Obviously not anytime soon, but in the next month or so, it is one scenario that could happen. Hi Andy, just tuned. Much love. Distance music. I got out of my short at 86K. Nice. That's good enough. I wasn't expecting to go that low now, to be honest. Profits are profits, right? It doesn't matter. But yeah, it seems like that the price decided it wanted to take the nuke today, and based on the information that we had with yesterday's price action, we just need to acknowledge that an ABC flat for the moment is what we have, running flat with an ending diagonal right over here, and that's very much valid based on timing. Based on the time, I think we probably crossed the 1-to-1 time, which is from your wave. Yeah, I mean, this price action in a running flat is the same exact timing from this drop down. This vertical line is a 1-to-1 time. So, I mean, based on timing, it fits really, really nice. So, yeah, it is very much valid for a wave 1 and a wave 2. And I mean, this is the thing about, running flats are uncommon flats. But if the market is very bearish and the sentiment is very bearish and it just looks very, very weak, right? Especially when we consider the higher time frame, because on the higher time frame, what's most important to understand is that we very likely have a completed WXY here, and we have very likely an impulsive move to the downside. So on the higher time frame, it's just a matter of time that this bounce, regardless of an expanding flat or a triangle or whatever, it's just a matter of time that it ends up collapsing down based on the higher time frame. So this is the thing about lower time frame, right? We want to be a little bit too technical. We could form this, we could form that, we could hit 91, we could hit 92, but we are really looking on the higher time frame for the next 1 to 2 weeks to head south to potentially tackle 80k. And then the higher time frame, just the story was written already on the higher time frame. It's all about lower time frame. How high do we get that bounce? Which is what we were discussing in the last few days. And it ended up with a running flat, finishing with the C wave with an ending diagonal. And that's about it. I decided I wanted to add to my short position this morning, once we lost eventually 88.7, which was a crucial pivot yesterday based on the local bullish structure. That the idea of losing this higher low is a very, very big problem, and most of the scenarios were pointing out either the triangle or a running flat here, to then either look for this for an impulse, a lower high and then down, or look to complete the D wave and then the E wave and then move down. But market decided it wanted to capitulate already today with that ABC running flat and a few 1-2s here, and the aggressive move down in a third wave. Looks like we ain't stopping, guys. This is the thing right now, that maybe the wave 3 is still developing. There's two main scenarios at the moment, and that is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 is developing in the next couple of days. It just really tanks. There's no bounces, there's no nothings, shallow bounces, but it just is continuation. Volume increases as we move down, and that's the story here. But what we could be waiting for basically between today and tomorrow is that, what if we do get bounces here, we don't end up nuking down as we test the lows, and then we get that bounce here in the next few days. I have to say that we would be looking for another lower high, right? This just is another wave 1 and another wave 2. The question is, will we get that bounce? And obviously the value area low of this entire trading zone would be a great zone of resistance to backtest for a new or existing short, or add add to the existing short or get into a new short. I mean, I'm going to hold on this swing short and adding to the short as we do get the weakness and get the corrective bounces. And, you know, I'm just looking to compound into this short because this is a short that could last a couple of months, and we could maximize profits very, very much on shorting from higher and understanding where you need to add, right? Because if we were to get this bounce, even today, I would be in doubt if we do not. I mean, if we do capitulate, then happy days. But if we do form a few 4-5s and we get the bounce here, and we understand that this is corrective, it's time to add to the shorts, because, you know, we may be looking for that wave 3 to happen, right, in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And we're heading way lower. Obviously, if we can find new short positions, then we will get into new shorts. But if you can't catch the high, you know, just like me, you know, here I didn't catch this pivot. But if you are having existing shorts from higher, if we lose 88.7, I didn't catch the high. I was looking for a bounce here for a new short, but I can add to the existing short because I understand here we either form a triangle, or we form a wave 1 and a wave 2, or we're forming multiple 1-2s and we're going to capitulate in a wave 3 already. So yeah, it's either adding to existing shorts or maybe get that bounce in the next couple of days. But man, it's looking weak. Volume is high. The only thing that we need is the price slowing down, forming a little bit of a range with lower volume eventually, where we get that bounce in the next couple of days. And I have to say that the highest probability at this moment is looking for a wave 1, a wave 2, and you might get that first wave 1 and 2 here before, you know, breaking down in the wave 3, right? Which is you just need to kind of rushing before the price really leaves without you. But you know, it is kind of dangerous and risky to short down here. You would rather want to see those weak bounces. You know, with that theory, what we're looking at is this literally, right? The same as the last few days. You know, do we get this kind of wick? And now with this price action, which is way lower, after testing the lows, you know, do we get a little bit of a bouncing range before we get the big move down? Or is the big move down already going to happen from here? Which is very, very possible. But you need the price to slow down. You need the bounce, because you want to get into bounces, really. You don't want to FOMO into shorts when you've had a major drop already in the day, because then it all depends on how you manage the trade, right? Anyway, let's go through comment section. Let's get this drawing out of the way. But it's, yeah, looking like it doesn't want to stop anytime soon. Let's go through comment section, see what the legends are saying here in the comment section, and we'll dive in right away. Wow, really, you are that bearish? Well, for the moment, weekly naked point of control below. Andy, Mark Dutch, much love to you, my man. Weekly naked point of control. I don't have it on the chart, but yeah, potentially from this area. Yeah, I haven't got my weekly naked point of control here, but must be from this zone over here. 0.88 is interesting as well. But yeah, price is just moving down very aggressively at the moment. I think the best call here, not interested in any kind of swing long here eventually, but what would be interesting is for new short positions. We realize that if this doesn't capitulate in a wave 3 and it starts slowing down in this area, the bullish case scenario for that flat has been very much invalidated at the moment. Yeah, hitting the 1.618. So yeah, we are looking at high probability at the moment for this to be a wave 1, a wave 2, and this is another wave 1 on the formation. If we do get that slowdown here in the next coming hours between today and tomorrow, the bounce is going to be looking very attractive for new shorts, guys. I think shorting eventually is priority at the moment. Longs are, unless you're getting into quick little scalps at levels of confluence, the way to go is looking for shorts without a doubt, right? With this weak market, understanding the higher time frame. It's a matter of being patient. There's no quick trades here on the 5 minute or the 1 minute. There's no quick major trades. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I would be looking for here. For a new short position or add to existing shorts, it does look like that it's a matter of time that we hit $80,000 at this point. We're going to have to go with the information that we have in the next coming days to see if we do get a new opportunity before $80,000 is hit. Shorting here obviously is not ideal, even though if it rolls down, it's just about managing your risk eventually. But the ideal scenario is to get one of these bounces in the next couple of days, which I'm not sure. Tomorrow's Friday, and Friday is kind of a bearish day. Friday feels bearish for me, and weekend we don't expect much volatility. So I mean, if it does end up bouncing, you know, throughout tomorrow, and maybe ranges in, you know, throughout the weekend, then obviously, you know, the name of the game here would be looking for the breakdown entering into next week. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what the price action gives us. We need to hit, I mean, yeah. This is an interesting take about hitting, you know, hitting 82.3k would already be, you know, it's a minimum target for the flat. So you have this as an A wave and this being a B wave. That's the only bullish scenario that I see. If we do tackle down in between, you know, today and tomorrow, and we hit 82.3k and we start slowing down, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but I think it's acceptable to look for longs if we slow down in this zone in between today and tomorrow. Just considering the flat, right? Because then, you know, we are looking for a bounce and to, you know, reject on the bounce at the valley area low, you know, forming a 1-2 and another 1-2, right? We've got so many similarities from the previous bear market. It's like, I don't think we're gonna get a major bounce here. But it's interesting to take into consideration the flat scenario, which is it is possible. I like looking for bullish scenarios when everything's so bearish, right? The reality is that it is, you know, this is corrective, this is an impulse, this is a correction. You know, you obviously want to go with the trend, but if it slows down in this zone in the next couple of days, maybe coming into the weekend as well, which would be interesting. That's finishing your 4/5s, right, on this latest move down. But, you know, we can consider a B wave here, like A wave, B wave of a flat, 3-wave up, 3-wave down. If you want a perfect entry, you need that slowdown here, because the main reason of you need to hit at least the 0.9 Fibonacci from the lows of November to the highs at 98k. So it still needs to go down if we want to consider a flat here that could be formed on the higher time frame, right, as a B wave. It's the minimum target. Naturally, you can go as low as 75k, because that's the 1236 Fibonacci, right, from the move of the A wave, speculative A waves in the flat. But if we're already slowing down in the next couple of days, you know, into this zone, right? If we are slowing down here throughout Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is low volatility anyway, we can consider multiple 1-2s, your third wave, right? You get your 4th and your 5, and then your 4 and 5 into this zone. And this would be, you know, entering into the weekend potentially. It's going to be very attractive to look for local longs for a intraday bounce that could be a few days. You know, that's the moment where I would be interested in a long position here. When we slow down, we need at least, you know, 24 hours here for a little bit of a slowdown. Low volume, bigger move has already happened, and maybe looking for longs at this point could be interesting when we consider that, you know, slightly bigger move that has the potential of forming the you know, an A wave, a B wave, and, you know, we might get surprised in February, right? Are we getting full moon or not? Do we get full moon and price gets a major rally throughout February here to form a flat? The only, you know, when this becomes interesting only is when we get this slowdown in the coming days. That it might be interesting to look for longs if we are forming this kind of price action here and in this local double bottom zone. But you need first that slowdown, then we understand, guys, this looks like it wants to reverse, so it makes sense to look for internal longs here. But till that happens, you know, we need this price action to consider that we're slowing down after the big move. If this doesn't happen, then it doesn't make too much sense to look for the longs, right? And yeah, naturally, if we do get that, you know, I would be very much interested in shorts on the bounce, of course, as well. Looking for short positions on. I'm really prioritizing that this is a wave 1 or wave 2, and if we get that slowdown here into the weekend, right, part of tomorrow, and then we get the bounce, I would really be favoring this has the highest probability. Wave 1, 2, another wave 1 and 2, and we just throughout next week we end up, or 1 to 2 weeks, we end up, you know, capitulating really in that wave 3. And that's if we don't continue rolling over, right, in the next couple of days. So where is the long? The long is when we slow down. We need to see that low volume and that little bit of a range here. That's similar to the price action that we got this morning, right? Between yesterday and this morning. Wave 3, slow down in this territory. And then it could be looking attractive to look for that reversal. That would be looking for longs on the double triple bottoms here, and then eyeing this movement up into resistance, value area low, point of control. If we do get that bounce, then looking for shorts could be attractive, just to consider the general idea that we're rolling over in the next coming days, right, in that wave 3. Legends, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to see you here. There's no big volume moving down. It needs to slow down here to consider that we might get a bounce. Okay, so longs are not looking attractive, I have to say, at the moment here with this current price action. WTF is happening. Full moon 1st of February. Well, that's it, right, Steve? 1st of February, full moon, full reversal. Yeah, that might happen. Let's see. Yes, we effed up. I know we are. We effed up. Higher time frame was very much looking bearish. It was kind of ready, right? Looking at the previous bear market, we're just very much discussing how we could correct in the last few days. And the move down happened. A move down happened today, and now it's a matter of understanding, is it a 1 2 1 2 3, or if it is going to manage to get us, surprise everybody. This ends up being a 3-wave move down and an A wave, B wave, and we get a full-on recovery here, or at least a running flat or a regular flat that takes out the A wave above 98k for February. It's a possibility. We're going to have to analyze the story here on the charts to see what happens in the next coming days. For the moment, we need to give priority to the bears eventually. This move was likely going to be corrective, and it was a matter of time that we got this movement down, this initial move to the downside. Legends, thank you very much for joining. Mark Dutch, much love. Thank you very much for joining today. It's been a pleasure to see you here. Thank you as always. Simon Jones, much love to you, brother. Thanks for joining, everybody. Chainlink is pumping 150%. Much love. I missed shorting yesterday, I have to say. I missed shorting here, but I added to the existing short as soon as we lost 88.7. So this was the moment to add to shorts, realizing that we could have formed a triangle or this being a running flat basically. So we were looking for price to roll over here regardless. But I did miss, shorting here or shorting today basically. But sometimes it is what it is. We add to existing shorts is what we have at the moment. So we're going to have to rely on this. Legends, thank you very much. Let's see if we can find some opportunities in the next couple of days. I'll be back tomorrow with another stream. Remember that you do have insane bonuses down below using bluffing, okay? VIP 1, as you sign up, that decreases your fees. $1,000 deposit bonus if you deposit 10K. And you can trade gold here even using crypto. You got those links down below. You have Velto as the decentralized option. This connects directly to your wallet, okay? No middleman, and they have very low fees. Check out the links in the description. Thank you very much for joining, and I will see you tomorrow.